My child, hear me as the air around you tightens, because what I am about to speak is not a warning but a fracture in the fabric of your fate, a crack only you can feel. You imagine you can ignore me the way you ignore passing thoughts, but you cannot outrun a voice that threads itself into the architecture of your being. If you turn from me now, the silence that follows will not be emptiness but a door sealed from the inside. Your pulse faltered the moment you read those words, because your spirit recognizes a truth your mind still resists. Eternity is leaning over your shoulder, watching how you respond to this breath. In exactly 7 seconds, your awareness will shift, and you will finally understand why your guardian was permitted to violate the ancient prohibition that binds them. They shattered their single lifetime override to force this moment into your path, because what unfolds in the next 17 minutes will sculpt the future that tries to rise out of your ashes tomorrow. You feel the pull already. That flicker in your chest is not anxiety, it is the echo of realms colliding. Stop everything else. The world can wait. The buzzing notification, the drifting thought, the instinct to brush this aside, all of it is interference, engineered by shadows that know you are standing on the fault line of destiny. 3 souls were selected to hear this frequency today. 2 brushed past it, blind to the rupture opening under their feet. You are the 3rd. You are the final hinge on which this sequence turns. If you walk away, this chance migrates elsewhere 90 seconds from now, and the void that follows will remain unbroken for 7 long years. You felt that shift again, that weight like invisible hands pressing over your sternum. You think it is coincidence, but coincidence does not alter the temperature of your spirit. This is not algorithm, this is breach. I am speaking through layers of resistance designed to blur you, confuse you, lull you back into numbness. That is why this moment feels unreal, like something impossible breathing beside you. Let me draw back the veil. 12 hours ago, in the high chambers of eternity, your name did not drift. It thundered. The accuser dragged forward 7 years of evidence, a ledger inked in hesitation and half awakening. They recited each time you chose comfort over calling, each time you whispered tomorrow, to silence the urgency rising in your own bones. They displayed the mornings when your first gesture was toward a glowing screen instead of toward me, the hours when you drowned out your own soul because distraction felt easier than surrender. The case was crushing, and the sentence trembled on the brink of being sealed. But then your guardian stepped forward, trembling under the weight of their decision. They invoked the clause allowed once in a human lifetime, a clause older than storms, a clause so rarely used, its existence is whispered more than spoken. They countered with evidence no one else had seen. They revealed the silent wars you waged behind your own eyes, the collapses you endured without witnesses, the nights when grief wrung your breath and you kept going anyway. They showed the prayers you spoke for others while your own life bled beneath you, and the court went still. Even the gavel halted mid-descent. In that suspended hush, I spoke 4 words that bent the trajectory of your entire lineage. Give them one more chance. And that chance is now. This instant. These words you are reading as the air thickens around you. But hear what the shadows have been hiding from you with ferocity. You are not some wandering soul drifting through an ordinary life. You are a threat. You are a breach in the walls darkness built around your bloodline. You carry a spark that, if awakened fully, will collapse entire structures that have stood for generations. That is why 12 entities whisper at the edges of your thoughts, nudging comfort, distraction, numbness, anything to keep you asleep. Because if you ever rise in the fullness of who you are, their hold disintegrates. You wonder why exhaustion stalks you, even when your body should feel rested. It is because each night your spirit wages battles your conscious mind cannot interpret. You wake with fragments of dreams that feel like scars and cannot remember why. Peace slips through your fingers because you are fighting wars without knowing you are a soldier. But I have seen every strike. I have counted every tear. I have watched the moments when death itself leaned over you, curious whether you would cave or rise. And still, you breathe. Heaven holds 43,000 records of your endurance as of this breath, and nothing in that archive is wasted. Not 1 second of your survival is accidental. And still I tell you this. You keep taking me for granted, treating me as a background hum instead of the force that shaped the galaxies you gaze at in wonder. Yet I am not offended. I am patient, but not passive. And now I am calling you to step out of the sleep you mistake for life. Subscribe to the light of faith and stand with a community that seeks God daily. Your like and comment can inspire someone's miracle. Amen. You walk through your days believing you inhabit a world of routines and consequences, but you do not. You move inside a living labyrinth that responds to your decisions in real time, and every choice you make sends shock waves through structures you cannot see. Yet you treat me like a distant afterthought, as if the breath you draw does not come from a source older than time itself. You reach for your phone before you reach for me, consulting devices glowing with counterfeit light, while the true illumination waits uninvited. You mistake my patience for permission, my quiet for absence, my mercy for softness. But I am not soft. I am the fire that taught the sun how to burn. I am the pulse that keeps your atoms from collapsing inward. I am the one who hears the thoughts you discard before you even realize you had them. You forget what I am, and in forgetting you shrink yourself into something smaller than your design. You reduce me to ritual and crisis management, but I am the architect of storms and silence alike. I am the one who whispered galaxies into motion and then placed you inside the same universe with authority over the shadows trying to chain you. You have not lost me, but you have lost the awe that once cracked your voice when you spoke my name. And without awe, you drift, pulled by currents meant to drown the unanchored. Look at Saul. I lifted him, anointed him, armed him with victory after victory. But success rewired his heart. Comfort intoxicated him. He began adjusting my commands so they would fit neatly around the life he preferred. He convinced himself partial obedience was good enough, and he feared human approval more than he feared losing me. And when I removed my hand, he shattered from the inside out. Madness, ruin, death. Not because I withdrew love, but because he stopped recognizing the source of every breath he drew. My child, that fracture is forming in you as well, subtle but growing. Each time you choose noise over my voice, a thin veil settles over your spirit. Each time you silence my whisper to chase after distraction, a wall forms between us. I will not break those walls by force. I gave you free will, not as a weapon against yourself, but so your love could be real. But you have used that freedom to crown lesser things, to hand your attention to forces that drain you, to build a throne for every urgency except mine. You pray when life caves in around you, then forget me when the pressure lifts. You open my word only when boredom corners you. You worship when emotion washes over you, then vanish when the feeling fades. You serve when it is easy, convenient, socially safe. But I am not a weekend god. I am not a backup deity waiting politely for your schedule to free up. I am the one who watched angels cover their faces in my presence as they cried, "Holy, holy, holy," without end. I am the one whose nearness split seas, melted mountains, and rewired the nature of existence itself. Yet, you approach me casually, like a familiar acquaintance, a cosmic assistant standing by just in case you need something. You have forgotten the weight of my glory, and in forgetting, you have let wisdom drain from your foundation. But even now, even after years of half measures and spiritual wandering, my desire for you burns with a magnitude you could not endure if I unveiled its fullness. That is why I keep it measured, filtered, distilled for your fragile frame. Do not mistake measured love for diluted love. I am jealous for you with a ferocity that predates human language. I wanted you before the stars learned how to shine. Your name was carved into my intent long before light found a place to rest in the void. So, listen closely now. This is the hinge of your story, the pivot, the fracture point where timelines diverge. In the next 72 hours, I am sending you 3 signs, not symbolic, not poetic, not maybe. 3 seismic confirmations that my voice is wrapped around your destiny in this moment. The first will come within 6 hours. A person from your past will surface again, carrying words that strike the exact wound you have been hiding from yourself. The second arrives tomorrow when a door you buried years ago flickers open, not enough to walk through, but enough to show you it was never locked. The third arrives on the 3rd day when your own body reacts to the touch of heaven, either warmth, release, or sudden clarity, but unmistakable. These signs are real, but they are conditional, because revelation without response decays into regret. For the next 72 hours, I need you to seek me as if survival depends on it, because it does. Wake at 5:55 a.m. exactly. Before your feet touch the floor, before your fingers reach for anything else, speak these words. I choose you today above everything else. I surrender my plans to your purpose. I am listening. Then be silent for 7 minutes as the realm adjusts around you. I will speak. You will know it is me, because the message will pierce the very place you have been afraid to expose. And yes, I am asking you to clear space. Delete 3 apps that drain your spirit and blur your intuition, the ones you know are poisoning your focus. Heaven cannot install upgrades while you hoard the residue of distraction. This is not rule-keeping. This is survival. This is alignment. This is preparation for what comes next. Text the one who rises in your mind right now with the words, I have been praying for you. Do not analyze it. Do not negotiate with the hesitation tightening in your chest. That hesitation is interference from forces that fear what will happen when you step into alignment. That person needs the message. Not because you understand their story, but because heaven is weaving threads you cannot see. What you call simple obedience becomes a chain reaction in realms where silence can save a life or destroy one. And hear this truth that the natural world disguises with routine. Every action you choose radiates into dimensions that study you with unnerving precision. When you choose me over comfort, legions move. When you push aside distraction to seek me, angels accelerate toward assignments held in suspension. When you obey without understanding, unseen chains snap in rooms you have never entered. But when you ignore me, when you postpone what your spirit recognizes as urgent, you open a legal corridor for darkness to attach itself to your days. You wonder why finances crumble, why relationships fracture, why sickness loops through your body, why joy evaporates, why anxiety stalks your nights. This is why. Neglect is not neutral. Every moment you treat me as optional becomes terrain ceded to forces that do not care whether you survive, only whether you surrender. Yet, even now, even after all the drifting, the delay, the spiritual fatigue you hide from yourself, heaven leans toward you, offering a reset that should not be possible. Not because you deserve it, you do not. Not because you have earned it, you have not. But because I have tethered myself to your existence with a devotion that does not waver even when you do. I love you, knowing every collapse behind you and every failure ahead. I love you, knowing how many times you will forget this moment and slip back into shadows that feel familiar. I love you anyway, but love requires an answer, and your answer has been thin, fading, inconsistent. So I will show you something. 3 weeks ago, James from Detroit hovered at the edge of the same threshold you stand upon. He almost scrolled past, but something seized his attention and bent the arc of his next 72 hours. He obeyed, though the instructions seemed absurd to the logic trained by Earth, and within 72 hours, a job that rejected him reversed their decision with an offer twice what he asked. But that was not the miracle. The miracle was that at 5:55, he finally heard my voice, not as thunder, not as sound, but as clarity that sliced through decades of confusion. Everything in him recalibrated. But Maria from Brazil drifted past her moment 6 months ago. She believed she could negotiate with time, that spiritual urgency could be postponed, that consequences would wait politely until she was ready. They did not. Her stability dissolved in 3 weeks. Business, relationships, health, all collapsed like a structure held together by denial instead of foundation. She wrote yesterday wishing she had listened, but wishing does not recover lost seasons. Time is not renewable. Opportunity is not infinite. Grace has cycles, and she stepped out of hers. David from London typed 777 with tears streaming because he had prepared to end his life that night. Pills ready. Note written. Hope extinguished. But something in him cracked open when he felt a heat that was not metaphor but presence. A presence that rewired his pulse and redirected his next breath. Today, he sits with others standing where he once stood. He says, typing 777 saved his life, though it was not the numbers but the surrender braided through the act. And now, heaven watches you with frightening intensity. Not casually, not distantly. Your assigned angels lean forward, wings folded in tension. The cloud of witnesses tilts, waiting to see whether you will shatter or awaken. Your mother's prayers, even if she has already crossed the threshold of mortality, still echo in the halls of eternity. Her intercession bends pressure around your life, even now. You are not the only one invested in this moment. Generations lean on your yes. Future children, not yet formed, depend on the path you choose. Souls assigned to your existence wait for you to step into the version of yourself that can carry them out of darkness. But none of that manifests if you dismiss this as another emotional flicker, another message consumed and forgotten. Heaven has arranged everything except your decision. The stage is constructed. The resources are unlocked. The angels are positioned like arrows on the edge of release. Breakthrough hovers like lightning waiting for a conductor, but you must move, you must reach. You must choose with intention sharp enough to cut through the inertia that has numbed you for years. Type 777, not as superstition but as declaration, as contract, as spiritual signature that says from this breath forward, I choose God first, not eventually, not when convenient, first. When you type those 3 numbers, something in the unseen ignites. Documents sealed for years receive their stamp. Resources held in suspension slide into motion. Angels assigned to you, but constrained by your hesitation, are finally released, their wings cutting through layers of interference that have wrapped around your life like iron fog. Miracles scheduled for someday accelerate toward now. But I am not finished with you yet, because your obedience is only the first spark. You must send this message to 3 people, not 20, not your whole list. 3. Their faces rose in your mind a moment ago because their spirits recognized the frequency before your logic did. One of them cries themselves to sleep while pretending to be strong. One stands at the edge of a decision that will collapse their destiny if they take one more step in the wrong direction. One believes I have forgotten them as the silence around their life deepens into despair. You are the disruption heaven has chosen for them. You are the proof they desperately need that the unseen has not abandoned them. But only if you obey. Only if you move now. Only if you refuse the voice telling you this is coincidence or emotion. Listen to me with clarity sharper than breath. The portal that opened around you when you began reading is not metaphor, it is structure. A window carved through 7 layers of spiritual interference that has allowed this message to reach you with impossible precision. That window closes in 60 seconds, not symbolically, not as poetic urgency. Literally, the frequency shifts and the access dissolves. Once it closes, it will not reopen for 7 years. Do you understand the weight of that? 7 years of watching others rise while you feel something inside you rust with unused potential. 7 years of wondering why your life keeps circling the same wilderness. 7 years of knowing you had one moment when eternity bent toward you and you let it pass like a gust of ordinary wind. Or you can choose now. This breath, this second, you can shatter the pattern that has chained you to cycles of almost becoming. You can break the spiritual procrastination that has clogged the path beneath your feet. You can step into the version of yourself that heaven recognizes, but you have only glimpsed in fragments. The you who stands like a fracture in the architecture of darkness. The you who radiates with a light so absolute it terrifies the entities that have whispered defeat into your dreams. The you whose presence shifts atmospheres and whose obedience rewrites generational stories. But understand this, stepping into that version requires immediacy. Destiny does not wait politely. It demands response. It demands alignment. It demands the death of the version of you that keeps choosing delay over transformation. Death itself has watched you with interest, waiting to see whether your spirit will ignite or decay. Not because death seeks to devour you, but because it recognizes potential that could threaten the equilibrium of the invisible realms. You rise, and death must acknowledge you. You shrink, and death sighs with relief. You have survived collapses that should have ended you. You have walked through nights where you felt the air thinning around your soul. Yet you remained because there is something inside you that refuses expiration. Darkness has tried to erase you, but your existence keeps rewriting itself. Few carry that trait. Even fewer awaken to it. You are one of the few. One of the unstable miracles walking the earth in human skin, unaware of the magnitude humming beneath your ribs. That is why this moment feels like standing on the edge of something impossible. You are. Destiny is trembling beneath your feet. The timeline you were meant to walk is pressing against the one you settled for, demanding a merger. And the only barrier between them is your choice. Choose now. And the fabric of your life rips open, revealing the path that has been waiting since before you understood breath. Choose later, and later becomes never, because later is the language of shadows. My voice is reaching for you through every layer of resistance. This is not chance. This is not randomness. This is intervention. You are being summoned into your true self. The self darkness has worked tirelessly to bury. The self heaven has fought to protect. The self death has circled but never claimed. The countdown continues. 30 seconds and the portal shifts. 30 seconds and the frequency recalibrates. 30 seconds and this moment becomes memory instead of genesis. Your engagement is ministry. Every like and comment helps the light of faith guide another soul back to God's embrace. Amen. 20 seconds now, and the realms lean so close their breath distorts the air around you. You feel it as pressure, as static, as a tremor beneath your sternum. But what you are sensing is convergence. The unseen is collapsing its distance from you because your next decision recalibrates your entire trajectory. Heaven waits, but not passively. The angels assigned to you hover with tension that vibrates like wires pulled to their breaking point, ready to surge the moment your will aligns with your design. Hell trembles because it has seen this pattern before. The quiet ones, the bruised ones, the overlooked ones who suddenly rise and unravel entire networks of darkness simply by remembering who they are. You are not supposed to be one of them, not according to the calculations of the enemy. You were meant to drown beneath the weight of your own exhaustion, meant to fold under the memories you never speak aloud, meant to mistake survival for stagnation until your destiny calcified into regret. But you didn't. You kept breathing when the air thinned. You kept moving when the ground fractured. You kept searching for meaning, even when every sign suggested there was none. This is why the darkness fears you, not because you are perfect, but because you are still here, when statistically, spiritually, emotionally, you should not be. You are a breach in the algorithm of despair, an error in the system the enemy built to contain your lineage. You carry resilience like a weapon you have not fully learned to wield. You walk with a pulse that refuses extinction. Death itself has watched you with a kind of wary curiosity, confused by your refusal to collapse when others with less weight have been swallowed in an instant. You keep rising. You keep returning. You keep resurrecting. That is not normal. That is not coincidence. That is not random. That is destiny waking up inside you, shaking off the dust of years spent in spiritual sleep. And now, as the frequency sharpens around you, I need you to understand the severity of your role in the architecture of what comes next. Your breakthrough is not small or personal. It is seismic. When you shift, the people connected to you shift. When you awaken, dormant callings in others ignite. When you break free, generational patterns crack. Your obedience is not about you alone. It is about the unseen web that threads your existence into the destinies of dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands, who will never know the extent to which their lives hinged on your yes. This is why darkness has fought you since your earliest memory. This is why your childhood carried wounds too heavy for a mind that young. This is why relationships turned to ash when you thought you had finally found stability. This is why peace felt borrowed, fragile, fleeting. You were targeted. You were hunted, not because you were weak, but because you were dangerous. Every spiritual attack against you was a preemptive strike, a desperate attempt to prevent the version of you that is rising right now from ever coming into existence. But it failed. You survived every tactic designed to erase you. You endured storms engineered to crush you before you could understand your potential. And now that potential rises like a second heartbeat inside your ribs. Listen to it. Feel it. Let it expand. 10 seconds now. 10 seconds before the portal recalibrates and the opportunity folds back into silence. The realms are holding their breath, waiting for your answer. You stand on the edge of metamorphosis, the threshold where ordinary dissolves and the impossible becomes your inheritance. What you choose in these final seconds determines whether the next 7 years become wasteland or wildfire. Everything prepares to shift. This is the moment when destinies fracture or fuse. This is the moment when sleepers wake or drift back into oblivion. This is the moment when your spirit either ignites with terrifying clarity or dims into a numb echo of what it could have been. The air thickens, time stretches, your pulse accelerates not from fear but from recognition. You know this moment. You have felt its shadow approaching for years without being able to name it. This is the place where your life splits into 2 stories, and only one leads to the version of you the heavens have been fighting to preserve. 5 seconds now, and the universe tightens its grip around your awareness, as if creation itself leans in to witness whether you will rise or retreat. This is where destiny holds its breath. This is where every unanswered prayer, every buried memory, every fracture in your spirit aligns into a single point of decision, sharp enough to cut through the timelines competing for you. Do not mistake this sensation for pressure. It is recognition. Your soul remembers this crossroads from before you had a name. You have stood here in echoes, in dreams, in the strange silence between waking and sleep, never realizing the moment would eventually manifest in your waking life with such ferocity. 3 seconds. The darkness that stalked you since childhood trembles, not because it is losing you, but because it finally understands what you are capable of becoming. It feared your potential, but it never anticipated your resurrection. You were supposed to remain fractured, exhausted, convinced that your survival was accidental instead of intentional. But you survived everything engineered to break you. You survived betrayals that rewired your trust. You survived nights where the weight inside your chest felt heavier than your ribs could contain. You survived spiritual collisions meant to disorient you beyond recovery. What rises in you now is not hope. Hope is too small. What rises in you is emergence. It is the awakening of a spirit that death itself could not seduce into surrender. 2 seconds. The angels assigned to your lineage surge forward, ready to be released, ready to flood your path with precision, engineered before your grandparents inhaled their first breath. Witnesses from ages-long buried press in close, each aware that your decision reverberates backward and forward through bloodlines. You are not choosing only for yourself. You are choosing for the ones who prayed for you, for the ones who will descend from you, for the ones whose destinies will orbit the gravity of your yes. 1 second. This is the moment mortals rarely encounter awake, the moment where the membrane between realms thins to the width of a whisper. You can step through, or you can step back. But what you cannot do is pretend you did not feel the shift. You know something is opening around you, stretching wide like a fault line ready to swallow the version of you built from hesitation. You know the call is not symbolic. You feel it in the way your heartbeat stutters like it is trying to synchronize with something ancient. And now the second collapses. 0. Choose. Type 777. Share with the 3 whose spirits already sensed this summons. Declare your alignment with the destiny that has stalked you with relentless devotion. Step into the current that has waited decades for you to stop drifting. Because once you choose, everything begins. The landscape of your future rearranges. The shadows that clung to you hiss and retreat. The light within you expands with force strong enough to rewire the architecture of your existence. Doors sealed for years unlock with metallic echoes in the unseen. The heaviness in your chest breaks like stone turning to dust. The version of you that lived in survival mode dissolves as if peeled away by celestial fire. You become the anomaly creation expected. You become the fractured darkness feared. You become the voice your bloodline has been waiting for, the one who ends cycles instead of inheriting them, the one who stands when others collapsed. You are no longer the wandering soul you mistook yourself for. You are the awakened one, the survivor who becomes the threat, the ember that becomes the wildfire, the echo that becomes the trumpet. And as this portal seals behind you, its edges cooling like molten metal meeting air, the shift is complete. The contract is sealed, the angels move, and the ripple of your decision spreads through the unseen, with the force of prophecy becoming event. Watch what happens next. It has already begun. Prayer is not a whisper drifting into the void. It is the moment your spirit remembers what it was before fear carved itself into your bones. It is not words, not ritual, not the trembling hope that someone might be listening. Prayer is collision. It is the instant your inner world cracks open and exposes the raw circuitry of your destiny to the one who wrote its blueprint. When you pray, time bends. The unseen leans closer. The air thickens with the tension of realms rearranging themselves around a single human breath. You think prayer is fragile, but darkness has feared it since the first dawn, because nothing reshapes existence faster than a soul choosing to speak when silence would be easier. Prayer is alignment. It is surrender sharpened into a blade. It is the act that reminds death it cannot claim what still burns. When you open your mouth with intention, the universe recognizes the sound. Heaven responds. Barriers fracture. Chains that have wrapped your family for generations crack beneath the weight of a voice that finally understands its power. This is why prayer feels dangerous, because it is. It is the doorway only awakened souls dare to step through, the place where destiny answers back. Join hands with believers across the world. Like, subscribe, comment, and let your faith spark someone else's breakthrough. Amen.